Yes, DBT. What was the question? Why did I do it? Yeah, so I did it because therapeutic value. It's another string to my bow. I was also I was probably tweaking a bit because I'd finished my degree. So I was just a bit like, I need to do something. Yeah, and so my mum had borderline personality disorder. So I was familiar with that as a disorder already. I had a client with borderline personality, I had a friend with borderline personality. So it just made sense that I would upskill myself and do the training in it. So yeah, which ties nicely into saying dialectical behaviour therapy is the gold standard treatment for borderline personality disorder. Now, that being said, borderline personality disorder isn't something that you hear about every day, but it's the reason why DBT has become so widely used is because it transpires there's a lot of challenges that people with BPD have that also affect those with substance use disorders. So alcoholism, drug use. It's also very effective for eating disorders, self-harming issues, and really anyone with emotion regulation issues, which is why it slots in so nicely with what we do, because lots of those issues we come across. So I've just written up here a bit of a breakdown of kind of how to chunk it down, basically. So DBT stands for Dialectical Behaviour Therapy. Dialectics is all about being able to hold yourself in a space of being in two places at once. What I mean by that is the sorts of issues I just mentioned, particularly BPD. BPD gives us a very clear example of this, of what we would call black and white thinking. So let me give you an example, and then you can tell me some other examples of this. So someone might say, you either love me or you hate me, right? So black and white, it's either one thing or the other. They might say, I am too fat or too thin. Yeah. So they're never in the middle ground. And we hear this kind of stuff from our clients a lot. Like they're just not being reasonable sometimes. They're not being rational. They're at one end of the extreme or the other end of the extreme. People with substance use disorders, you know, they're drunk or they're sober, but there's not this kind of middle space of perhaps being able to live healthily with alcohol. They might be in a place of I love myself or I hate myself, but not a place of just, you know, I'm okay. Then they're finding it very difficult to live in the weird grey neutral area in the middle of anything. And so the dialectical part in dialectical behaviour therapy is about saying, yes, there are these two polarities, but what we want to get good at is living in the middle of them, so that you're not on some kind of emotional tightrope all the time. So the reason why borderline personality disorder is called borderline, in Europe it has a different name, it's called EUPD, which is something like emotionally unstable personality disorder. In this country we call it BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. And the reason why we call it borderline is because they're always on the borderline of falling off and going the other way. So they are walking an emotional tightrope all of the time. And they also switch very fast. And if you know people or your clients that have had self-harming type challenges, the decisions around that harming behavior or taking the drug or having the cigarette or whatever it might be is a quick decision. Like, it tends to happen fast. It's not something where they're putting the brakes on and thinking it through and considering what the next steps should be and making a mindful choice. These are choices and decisions that are happening from emotion rather than from a place of mindfulness. Does that kind of make sense so far? Yeah. So one of the things that's quite exciting for me and should be for you about DBT is that it has got a lot of study behind it. So there's a lot of scientific validation to demonstrate that this actually works, which is something that sadly we lack in NLP. NLP is kind of notoriously unproven because every practitioner delivers stuff in a slightly different way. It makes it really difficult to measure. So it's always been difficult in science to say, you know, fast phobia cure works because everybody's delivering the fast phobia cure slightly differently. Whereas with DBT, it's much more prescriptive. You know exactly what you're doing and how you're doing it, and often when you're doing it as well, which has made it much easier to measure their strategies and techniques, and means that there's really good data in specific groups. So the BPD groups, in the substance use groups, in the self-harming groups, where they've been able to A/B test the people that have had access to the therapy, the people that haven't had access to the therapy, to show that this stuff actually works really well. Now, that being said, it tends to be a long program. So it's 40 weeks in total. It's based on 4 modules. The 4 modules are kind of the next step down from what is DBT. So we've got mindfulness is probably the core component of DBT. Is learning skills around mindfulness. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean like the deep meditative type mindfulness states, although it can do, but it's actually lots of different strategies that you can use to bring yourself into a state of mindfulness in a variety of different ways. We have distress tolerance, which is your ability to cope with uncomfortable circumstances. So going back to the BPD group, they tend to have poor distress tolerance skills. They get more stressed more quickly, more easily. They will, if they get angry, for example, it will be a higher level of anger than you might see from someone who's a bit more neurotypical, and they'll take longer to come out of it afterwards. So their recovery time is longer, the intensity of the emotion is higher, and they go there fast because they have low levels of distress tolerance. Just interrupt me whenever you've got questions, right? Emotion regulation. So this is, it kind of ties in with distress tolerance. Like how well can you bring yourself back down after you've got stressed out? How well can you hold yourself in a space of peace, and for how long? Emotion regulation might also be about choosing the right emotion for the context of the situation that you're faced with. So again, they all tie in with each other, but sort of mindfully choosing how I'm going to act and react to the circumstances that I'm in at the moment will tie in with emotion regulation. And then we've got interpersonal effectiveness. What we mean by interpersonal effectiveness is how all of this ties in with what you then do when you're communicating back with the outside world. Because none of these things are sort of happening in isolation, and lots of people's triggers around their substance abuse or their wibbly wobbly emotions that they're experiencing happen as a result of their interactions with other people, and how they're interpreting other people's perceptions of them, how they are sometimes even saying no or apologizing or facing difficult situations with other people. Are they going to be a pushover? Are they going to overreact? So that all comes down to their interpersonal skills. So there are specific strategies for each of those 4 areas. So when I talk about the training being 40 weeks, because it's 4 modules of 10, the 4 modules are those 4 subject areas up there. So you spend 10 weeks covering mindfulness, you spend 10 weeks doing distress tolerance and so on. So then for each of those 10 modules, there are what we would probably in NLP language say are strategies and techniques. The really interesting thing with DBT is it's all based on, or the majority of it from a practitioner perspective, is based on your worksheets. So you'll see here, I've got 2 very meaty books. And this one is the practitioner's manual. All right, so this is for you as a practitioner, and you can literally go to the back of the book and you can look up any one of those 4 subject areas up there, or you can even just look up a thing like negotiation. And then it will tell you, there'll be like a section in here that says, here's what you need to know about it. And this is where you need to go to in the handouts to find the corresponding activity that teaches you how to do negotiation. And there will be a worksheet in here. So this is the one that you use with your clients. And then with your client, you go through the exercise together, and then they go off and practice the skills. So it sounds like it's really kind of basic, because, you know, like when you learn NLP, you sort of left the training, you're like, oh my God, I've got to remember all this stuff. I need to remember how to do anchoring and, you know, how to sort of pitch your communication model. You have to hold it all in your head, and you've got like really brief diagrams that might sort of guide you through. But everything else, you're holding it up here, you're memorizing it. Whereas with this, you don't. With this, you literally have the book there with you. And you go through the worksheet with the client, you do it together, or as more commonly happens in DBT, they're attending group sessions. So most people who use DBT, who need DBT, will come to group sessions. Group sessions are often important for the kind of people that need DBT, because they lack interpersonal skills. So by getting them in a group, we're putting them in the perfect opportunity to test this stuff out, and also to sort of hear that other people are perhaps having similar struggles or worse struggles than they are, which can be quite important and grounding for them. Some people do go through DBT on a one-on-one if they've got perhaps a more severe or specific case that they're working with. But the vast majority of the time, DBT training takes place in a group. In order to become a practitioner of DBT, so there's a few different routes. You can do the sort of, you know, online, like going through recordings of trainings and learning it that way, which then comes with an exam at the end of it. You can and should attend a group, like as if you were a client with an issue. So you should come at it from that angle so that you actually learn it from the perspective of doing it and applying it to yourself. And then in order to become a kind of clinical lead in DBT, you actually have to do clinical hours alongside it. So my qualification in DBT is AAAC, which is Advanced Academic, something else beginning with A, certification. It will come back to me. Advanced, I can't remember. And in order to get to the clinical level, I would need to spend time in clinic delivering this, which I'm not going to do because I don't want to be in psychiatric clinic if I can help it. So yeah, I'm going to give you an intro today. We're going to play with a couple of the exercises as well, so that you can just see how simplistic this is. And the key thing I want you to remember alongside this is the kind of stuff that's delivered in hospitals. This is the kind of stuff that GPs will refer people for, because it has got that scientific validation behind it. It's got the statistical evidence to prove that this actually works. Any questions so far?
You use it a lot. You use it a lot in your sessions.
Not a lot, because I've not worked with anyone where I've specifically used DBT. which is mainly down to me not updating websites and bits and pieces like that. I think if I did, when I do, that it will be something people come just for DBT. So the way that I've been using it is just integrating aspects of it that are relevant for the person I'm speaking to that day. And I'll go, oh, hang on a minute. I think I've got an interesting worksheet we can do together around that. And then I'll dive into it and use it that way. So I've got a digital copy of both of these books as well. And I keep them on the iPad so that I can just sort of dive into it as and when I need it. Okay. Anything else at this point?
I had previous client who I saw for about 3 years, who was adopted, and he had a disabled sister who was also adopted by this couple. And I bumped into his mum last year at the Stitch Festival in Harrogate, like you do. I said, "You won't remember me, will you, Sue?" So I said, "Yes, I do. Hello, how are you?"
Yeah.
And I stopped seeing him about 8 months before COVID. And she randomly phoned me up 3 years ago saying he's refused to get on a flight. He's going on holiday, he's refused to get on a flight. My husband's had to stay at the airport with him. Can you offer any advice? It's like, well, they're not. They're there, I'm here.
Yeah.
But when I bumped into her at the Knit and Stitch last year, she told me that he's now in a residential clinic because he's been diagnosed with borderline personality
disorder. Yeah.
And she said to me, "Did you see any signs of that?" So I said, "Well, no, I didn't."
Yeah.
It was a very complex case, and it was working out what was past trauma.
Yes.
Very traumatic babyhood.
Yeah. And how old was he when you met him?
He would have been 8 when I met him.
Yeah.
And I stopped seeing him when he was 12, I want to say.
Yeah. So BPD, you start noticing at about 16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was what I said to her, that sometimes things develop later on.
Yes.
And obviously when you're only seeing somebody for an hour, every other week or whatever as well, you don't always see all the signs. But what was interesting for me was how I felt afterwards, because I did go home and reread through my session notes just to see if I could see anything that I'd missed. And I didn't see anything that I missed. The seed of doubt was in there.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was interesting.
Yes. Yeah. BPD's a really interesting emotional disorder for a few reasons. Number one is that there is a genetic element to it, in that these people experience emotional pain to a more severe level than more typical people. So for them, you know, let's say for you, if someone said something hurtful, it's the equivalent of a paper cut. For them, it could be like the equivalent of their skin being on fire. So they just have very intense emotions. And for the rest of us, it appears they have very intense emotional reactions. It's because they're genuinely feeling things that intensely. The other thing is that, which is the sort of biological aspect to it, right? Now, it could be that exists in isolation as a cause for BPD, or there are kind of environmental triggers as well. For example, if you have been abused in childhood, if someone, and it doesn't have to be serious abuse, it could be parents who are too busy, you know, and just a bit neglectful, but not willfully neglectful, just, you know, preoccupied. And so these young people go through their lives not being validated in the way that they really needed, not being noticed in the way that they needed. Like Zoe was mentioning at lunch about a child that you worked with who ended up writing a letter to his grandma that had passed away. So a situation like that, where you know, perhaps someone's passed away in the family, the child was close to them, but the adults get busy doing the adult funeral arrangement type things, and nobody sits down with that child and says, how are you doing? You were really close to grandma. Are you okay? And instead they say, you know, it's a really stressful time. Just take yourself off and read your book. For that child could be a way of invalidating their experience that they're going through. And so then there are these sort of emotional wounds that happen because of environmental circumstances. So, you know, BPD is a very specific type of personality disorder, and it's also curable. So of all of the different psychiatric disorders there are not really, certainly on the more serious end, like cluster A, cluster B, there aren't really any that can be, you know, that you can overcome. But with borderline personality disorder, there are 9 criteria for diagnosing it. And these 9 criteria are actually quite fluid, because it could be things like how emotionally you react in particular situations, or patterns of repeated behavior like stealing, or driving too fast, like risk-taking type behaviors are quite common in BPD, for example. And if you tick enough of those 9 boxes, then you're going to be classified as having BPD. But as a result of doing DBT, you can reduce those behaviors, which means you no longer fulfill the criteria, enough of the criteria to be able to say that you have BPD anymore. So technically, this is recoverable. You can get past this. And that's like really significant. That's a really big deal, because anything else like schizophrenia or depressive disorder, it's kind of like you're living with it for your life, but with this you don't have to. And there are so many aspects of that particular disorder which then overlap into things like self-harming behaviors and eating disorders and so on, that's why it's also worked well for those particular groups as well. All right, so let me tell you a bit more about it. Here is why DBT exists. So it was created to help people manage intense emotions and impulsive behaviors that would otherwise probably get them into a bit of trouble. It was developed initially to treat borderline personality disorder, but it's now used for many different sorts of issues, as we've said. It combines cognitive behavioral techniques with mindfulness principles. So prior to DBT, the gold standard was CBT, so cognitive behavior therapy. But what was discovered was that a lot of people who particularly had BPD wouldn't see through their cognitive behavior therapy treatment. Like they'd start and stop, they wouldn't stick with it. And CBT is cognitive, like it's missing that emotional awareness piece. Obviously, when you've got your head straight, it's much easier to get your emotions straightened out as well, and for you to emotionally feel better. But actually, sometimes people need their emotions addressing, and sometimes they need that first. You know, sometimes they need like recovery strategies for in the moment feeling better before you could say to them, now I want you to think in a different way. Like it's a big jump if someone's in a poor emotional state to say, well, think differently. They're just not quite there yet. And it focuses on both acceptance and change. So this takes us back to that conversation we were having about the dialectic, you know, being in 2 different places at once. We need to accept that people are in pain. We need to validate the bad things that have happened to them, but we don't live there permanently, because then all we're doing is having a pity party. So we're doing both accepting life is tough, this sucks for you, those things shouldn't have happened in your childhood or whatever it might have been, you've been treated unfairly. And at the same time, we're saying, but tough luck, you need to change. You need to be able to do both. We need to accept the rawness of the situation and we need to change it. It's not one or the other. Counselling is very acceptance, you know, it's very much based on this, like, poor you, this is really bad. CBT is going to be very change focused. So DBT is about bringing both of those worlds together. Does that make sense? Smash it. And the ultimate goal, so like the tagline, if you like, for DBT is to build a life worth living, because there is a really high level of suicidality amongst people with BPD, amongst people who are self-harming, amongst people who are substance abusing. Like, the mortality rate in those groups is higher compared to the standard norm. And so we want to help people build a life that's worth them living and sticking around for. All right, how do I move to the next slide? That one? No, that's it, we're stuck now. Here we go. All right, so here's where it came from. It was developed in the late 1980s. So this is still a really new intervention. Like, this is newer than NLP, right? And we still talk about NLP as being a little bit new age. This is even newer, but it's got a lot of really good credibility behind it. So it was developed by a lady called Marsha Linehan. Marsha Linehan actually had borderline personality disorder, but I don't think she knew that she had it when she first went into the field of psychology. And it's only as a result of developing the solution to the problem that she realized she also had the problem as well. So it originated from CBT, but it was adapted for people who struggled with self-harm and suicidality. And the key things that have been added into it is validation, acceptance, and the mindfulness components. It's been backed by decades of research and multiple clinical trials. It's now used worldwide for emotion dysregulation, trauma, and interpersonal difficulties. So it is for people who feel emotions very intensely. For those who find relationships chaotic or tend to have more conflict in their relationships than perhaps they might like. It's for anyone who struggles to manage impulses or self-destructive behaviors, so like risk-taking behaviors that might get them into trouble. It's also good for anxiety, depression, PTSD, or personality difficulties. And it's really good for developing structure, accountability, and for giving people practical emotional skills that they can use to improve their lives. So it's interesting you say, Sue, about that young boy that you worked with and that he was adopted, right?
Yeah.
So the person that introduced me to DBT is someone who was adopted and had struggled with his own emotions over the years. So actually, Ian knows him. It's a chap called, you might know him, Stuart. Yeah. So Stuart was adopted and grew up knowing that he was adopted, and has had quite a lot of turbulence in his life. And I'm not disclosing anything that he wouldn't tell you himself, and is probably on his website. But so his son died by suicide, and Stuart set up something called the Ollie Foundation. I've got a feeling we had some training from the Ollie Foundation here, didn't we? Yeah, a few years back. So yeah, Stuart's the CEO behind the Ollie Foundation. And I think because of all of those different things, like, those are really emotionally testing situations to go through in life. So he was looking for ways to manage his emotions better. And he was someone who came across DBT and then introduced me to it, and was super excitable about it and saying, this has changed my life, it's amazing. So that's how I came to know about it. All right, so here's how the sessions are structured. So it's a combination of weekly individual therapy and skills groups. So most people absolutely do skills groups. Not everybody does individual sessions on top of that. It's going to be for more intense situations where someone might need that. The group sessions follow a structured workbook format. There are worksheets that help you then to apply the skills in between the sessions. And it's focused on the 4 key modules of mindfulness, emotion regulation, distress tolerance, and interpersonal effectiveness. You don't need to remember it all. Yay! Because all of the materials are in your workbooks and you're using those every step of the way. And we've already said it is evidence-based. So your role as a practitioner is that you are leading sessions with warmth, structure, and accountability, because these groups of people that we're talking about working with DBT are notorious for being treatment refusers. These people are bad at their therapeutic accountability, so you have a really strong role around that. We're doing that balance of both acceptance and change, and the coaches are also participants in applying the DBT skills in real time, in real life, which means that when you're running your groups, you're coming back and delivering your own experiences, your own metaphors, your own stories. So you're really going on the journey with them, not just kind of blasting it out to them on a weekly basis. And this helps them to then take on that accountability around things like putting it into practice in real life, because they know that, you know, they're not just coming back to report back to you, but it's more like your partners in crime working through it together. So it encourages them to do the reflection. It allows them to be open about, you know, what's happened in between sessions, and it encourages everyone to stick with achieving the goals that they want. It's also about modeling. So we're modeling emotion regulation and interpersonal effectiveness. So it relies on you to be really open about yourself and your own challenges as well, because, you know, what these people may have grown up with is households where talking about your emotions isn't okay. That's just not what we do. Like, I think a big part of why my mum ended up with BPD is because my grandparents, so her parents on that side, are they're a bit stuffy middle class. There's not a nicer way of saying it, really. So it's very sort of stiff upper lip, and we're not going to talk about feelings, and we're not going to address difficult stuff, brush all that under the carpet. We're not going to look at it. So the side effect of that for my mum was she was overly emotional, like overly dramatic. She would get overly angry because it was like an expression of all of this stuff that the whole family were trying to shrink and push down all of the time. Now, the ironic thing is I now see my nan every week. I take her to visit my sister. And I'm sure I've sort of talked to you guys about this before. You know that situation where you're side by side with someone, so you're not facing each other? Well, we're in the car, so we're side by side. Oh my God, I'm getting like 94 years of download from my nan every week. Because for whatever reason, anyone would think I was a therapist. She's now coming along every week and just going, blah. And so all of her stuff is coming out now, which is like a super interesting situation to be in. But there wasn't, I guess, that same openness with her own children when she was bringing them up, and so they all learned you just kind of keep stuff locked up, right? So what happens with these people is they've not had good emotion regulation, honest conversations, full transparency about how we're thinking and feeling. So you have to model that for them in the sessions that you're delivering. You have to give them that safe space to say, I'm confused by this. Someone reacted in a way that threw me off, and I don't know why it threw me off. And, you know, if you can be the one who's leading the way, it gives them the space to be able to do the same. All right, so we are gonna play a game. This is called the Dime Game. Now I don't know how many of these we'll get through today, but I think I've printed up 4 different exercises for you here. And the Dime Game is a game for figuring out one of two things. You can use it to figure out whether you should say yes or no to something that you can't decide whether you should say yes or no to. Or you can also use it for just making a decision. So a decision that you're stuck on. And it helps you to do that. Right, so I'm going to give you the whole set of worksheets for all 4 games, whether we do them all or not. So that's one whole pack there. And I've tried to give you one exercise from all areas, but I don't think we've got one of them. That's another pack. And there you go, that's another one. 3, 4. That's another one. Is that all of them? Yeah, okay. All right, so here's what you're going to do. Now, I don't have dimes because I'm not a merkin. I've got pennies. So I'm going to give you all some pennies. And this is how it works. So basically, we could be almost a bit deductive about this rather than me inducing you into it, because actually everything you need to know is on the piece of paper here. So you're going to decide, and I want you to work with either something that's relevant for right now or a time in the past, right? It doesn't have to be a problem that's running. I want you to come up with either something that you're not sure whether to say yes or no to, or something where you need to like make a decision and you're not sure like how strongly to make your decision. One of those 2 scenarios. One of you is going to be practitioner, one of you is going to be client, then you're going to switch over. So we use this to figure out how strongly to ask for something or how strongly to say no. You're going to circle the dimes that you put in the bank for the statements that are listed below. And then you're going to add them up. You're going to add up how much money you've made from how many of the statements you end up circling. Then you're going to go back over the list and see if some items are much more important than others. And if some items are more important than others, then that's going to dictate how much money you end up banking. So you have a second sheet that goes with this particular exercise. And this tells you how to react or respond based on the amount of money that you ended up with. Does that kind of make sense so far? So you've got either you're going to be working down the left-hand side, which is deciding how strongly to ask for something, or you're going to be working down the right-hand side if instead you're going to work on a problem which is about saying no to something. And it gives you prompts to ask you about the situation. And if you can answer those questions, you'll earn your penny. All right, so you can circle it on the sheet, or you can actually take your penny. And then once you've done that, you go to the second sheet, and that's going to tell you how much you've earned and what your response to the situation should be. Because remember, what we're working with, when I say with these kinds of people, I don't mean it disrespectfully, but for these kinds of clients, these are people that are notoriously stuck. So this is a mechanism to unstick them, because it basically makes the decision by the end of it. This is going to tell you what action you need to take based on how much money you made in the game. Okay, so it helps us to decide how strongly to ask for what you want, or how strongly you need to say no to something. It's called the dime game, not just because of the money aspect to it, but there's a lot of acronyms that are used in DBT. So you can see up here that I've said you've got sheets and strategies. Below your sheets and strategies, you've also got acronyms. The acronyms are there to help you remember key important aspects of DBT. And DIME stands for describe, indicate, maintain, end. It's based on how important the request is versus the relationship cost, which is another reason why it's sort of quite metaphorical that we've got money involved. It encourages assertiveness without aggression or avoidance. This is really important because for this type of client, we might see that they might bury their head in the sand and avoid making decisions because they feel uncomfortable doing it. Or they make a decision, but by then they've wound themselves up so much that their reaction is explosive and they're just not dealing with things in a very measured way. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So an example could be someone whose boss says to them, are you okay to work overtime again next week? And they're tired and they're burned out and they kept saying yes to overtime for the last 3 weeks. And in their mind, they're thinking, I can't believe they're asking me to do overtime again. They must know that I'm tired and burned out. They must realize I've done overtime for the last few weeks. They're being well out of order. I can't believe that they're asking me again. But they don't say anything about the problem they're experiencing. So then they might do the overtime, but be really resentful about it and do a bad job because they didn't want to be there in the first place and they're tired. And then the boss calls them in and says, you did a bad job. And then they end up having a blowout and a great big heated argument about the whole thing, when really it was the boundary setting of the person that was asked to do overtime that hadn't been enforced. And that's why the problem existed. It might be that they don't have that explosive blowout, but instead they just become a bit of a people pleaser and say yes, and they just get exhausted and can't go to work anymore at all. And they're fried. But again, it's because they never said no. Or if they said no, they did it in an overly emotional way, which then caused an even bigger problem. So this strategy is to help us, help our clients deal with situations like that. Make sense? Smashing. All right, so what we are looking to do is encourage assertiveness without aggression or avoidance. And we're getting that balance right between self-respect, meeting our objectives, and maintaining good relationships all at the same time. Okay, ready to have a play? Yeah, good stuff. So I'm going to come around and give you some money so you can give your client their actual dimes.
Probably still your money before you bought it.
Oh, yeah, that's,
You sat there and got the ball straight from the bank.
there you go. This is my front part of the month of the year. So, all right, really big and it's kind of broken than you, but there you are. All right, so have a think. Have you got this something where you want to say no? Or you need to ask for something, or you need to ask for something to change?
And it doesn't have to be a recent one, right? Be a time in the past. Over to you.
I think it's something that's going to be really useful. Around you.
Time in the past that we had to ask something, would, could have, should have.
It could be that. Yeah, could be that. I can give you an example. You won't be able to use this one, but here's an example that I had. So I told you earlier about somebody who hadn't read their contract before signing it and then wanted to leave. So on my end, what happens when we sign someone up for a new contract, I can add that into my budgeting for the next 5 years or 3 years, because I know I've got guaranteed money coming in, and I can do things like take on an apprentice or, you know, go into a business contract with something else because I know I've got the money covered. So then when someone says, oh, I didn't know it was for 5 years. I want to leave now. And I say, okay, here is the settlement figure. This is the, I've given you a discount. It's the best I can do. And then they say, but that's not fair because I didn't know, because I didn't read it. Then what happens for me is I have to stick to my guns about, you need to pay the financial forfeit for this, because even if I like you and I want to be nice and kind of let you off that financial hook, I'm going to hurt my own business by doing that, because I've got my own budgets that I need to adhere to, and I've got people that I need to pay. And you told me you were going to pay that money. That's why you signed the contract. So it's this kind of balancing act of, I want to still have a good communication around this problem, but also you need to pay. And that's a really tricky balancing act, right? Especially when you've, been in that relationship with them for a few years already, and it's a good friendly relationship, and they're saying, please, like, I didn't realize, and I just haven't got the money. And like, heart me is going, oh, I really don't want to have this like horrible breakup with this person. But business me is saying, this is not your problem. Like, they had that contract in their possession for 2 weeks. It says it on the front cover. So no, they have to pay the money. So it's that situation of, I need to make a logical decision in a heartfelt way, and not a heartfelt decision without any logic. Yeah. So that would be an example of where I needed to do the dime game with myself based on the how strongly to say no. So I don't know if that helps.
So we're working
Together, pairs, yes, practitioner client, and then swap-a-roo. Yeah, and bear in mind, in a DBT group, you'd spend an hour on this. We're doing like a whistle-stop tour because I want to show you as many different things as possible. But usually you would have a chunk of time where you're kind of, this is how all of the exercise works. This is what we need to know about making decisions successfully. Here's an example like I did of a situation where I struggled with making a decision, and maybe it went well, maybe it didn't go well. Now we're going to do the exercise. Let's all do the exercise together, come back, discuss the exercise. So it's, that piece, just that little exercise, gets milked for an hour, so that, you've really got some structure behind it. And it's just it's logical, right? But it's a logical way of dealing with an emotional situation.
Yeah. Don't stay on there. Yes, stay. Yeah.
Which is nice. Because you're kind of like handing over, like letting go of that emotional reactive part, leading the charge on what are we going to do about it, and instead just sort of handing it over to a decision-making tool.
It's interesting what it does to your brain. Those questions on
but what there's some triggering stuff. So I did the live situation. I had strongly to say no. In the long term, will I regret saying no? I probably would, but that's because I would, I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Just feel back.
Yeah.
Other people give it a set of support, but that's back to me. That's kind of like individual.
Yes. Yeah. So I use this with a client around a work scenario, and when we got to the final part where we were posting it up, And it was a saying no scenario, I think we did. So we costed it up, and the response was say no firmly, but reconsider, like be open to reconsidering it. And when I fed it back to her, she was like, actually, no, that's not the right thing to do. And she was like, I need to do the level above that one. That's the right thing for me to do. Which indicated that there was something where I'd given her money and, you know, we'd got it wrong. She'd not judged it correctly in that moment when we'd costed it up, because then, you know, we would have had to have got to a different outcome instead. But even that's a really useful discussion.
I was hoping it was come out and say no firm.
Yes.
And it did.
Yeah.
When we were doing it with my situation, it says 10 cents. So there were 2 questions and I would put 5 cents to it.
Yes, yes.
Not definitely not no, but not 100% yes.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, let's put this one aside.
Yeah.
That's just 5 cents.
Yeah.
But I have 2 5 cents. So
yeah, that's a good strategy as well. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Because sometimes the answer is not 100% yes.
Yeah. Yes.
There's my advice.
Yeah, sweets. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of scope with it for sure. I think the reason why I like this exercise is it's a bit like having a company policy where someone's challenging something and you want to say no, but you know you're going to hurt their feelings, and so you can legitimately say, sorry, it's not in the policy. And you're like, that didn't have to come from me. It's the policy that said no. So it's kind of like that, where it's like, well, now I have to say no to them, or I have to ask for that thing because the policy said that that's what I need to do. Yes, that's what we do in a situation like that. That's how we deal with it.
We use the policy thing with issues.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to tell someone that you have to take shower, come to work, you know, because you smell. So So it's very hard to say things. We just remind them of the.
That's what the policy says. Yeah.
Says they have to have a shower. No, but the policy says that you have to come clean and.
Yeah, good standard of hygiene. Yeah. Yeah.
In hospitality, there is a policy on this.
We have it.
Yeah, we have it.
I can't guarantee they're going to stay.
It doesn't say for us. It said that you have to take shower, but how would you get rid of that? Having showers.
Yeah. I actually had that exact situation when I was a nursery manager, and we'd taken on a new member of staff, and the supervisor came in and said, she smells, you have to talk to her. And I was like, oh, good. And I remember she said that she wasn't used to getting up so early in the mornings, so she wasn't showering before she came to work. She was showering at night, and then getting up and getting the bus the next morning. And I said, yeah, you're someone who needs to shower in the morning. That's just what has to happen now, because the policy says so. Yeah. All right. So how did we like the dime game?
We had a question about the homework one. On the how to decide to say no.
Yes.
So the second to ask, do I know what I'm saying no to? We both knew what we were saying no to, didn't we? So we said, so the answer to that is yes, so we don't get the 10.
Correct. Correct.
That didn't seem fair.
Do I know what I'm saying no to?
Well, we did in the end because it felt like that's what's supposed to happen. But anyway.
So you would get more money for saying no. Do I know what I'm saying no to? No. So then you get more money, and when you've got more money, it's a firmer rejection at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
In our examples, it still felt backwards, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
What can you tell me what the scenario was?
So it was leaving the job, basically.
Okay.
What I was saying no to.
And the no was to leaving the job, or the no
The
was
no was to stay.
oh, hang on then.
So I knew what I was saying no to. I wasn't
Yes.
with any more of that.
Okay. So your should I say no is should I say no to putting up with more rubbish?
And the answer to that was yes. Should I say no? Yeah, it is, isn't it? Should I
Yes.
say no to put up with more of that rubbish? The answer is yes. Yes, I should say no.
This is
Correct. I'm not going to say yes. You don't. But the question is, so do I know what I'm saying no to?
She knew what she was leaving behind,
Yeah.
or what she was rejecting.
Yes.
So we felt like that was a
Yeah, I do get where you're coming from. I'm just sewing it up in my brain with what the actual thing is. Should I say no to staying in a crap job? Is the sort of gist of it, isn't it?
yeah.
I don't know what that sound is. Oh, it's the air freshener thing, I think. Should I say no to staying in a crap job? Do I know what I'm saying no to? Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway.
We think it's good.
Yeah. Good. I'm sure it is. Yeah.
It gives you much more of an idea about what it makes you future pace. What do you actually want the outcome to be?
Yeah.
And then you almost wait in anticipation to see if it matches. But
Yeah,
then by that
yeah.
point, you kind of already answered
Yeah.
it in your own.
And if it doesn't
Yeah, so mine
match,
was slightly lower, and I was like,
yeah,
actually, no,
then you're like, oh, hang on a minute. Yeah, definitely. And it's a way of taking the problem and just kind of going, all right, how does it look from here, 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 here? Do I still feel the same way about it? Do I still want to take the same action? It just makes you explore it, which is really useful.
But by practicing thought process like this, it will take them out of that heat of the moment.
Yes. You're slowing it down.
Just like
yes,
take a breath.
Which is the mindfulness piece. Yeah, that's which is kind of the backbone to all of this. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, it takes the emotion out of it, slows everything down, gets you looking at it from multiple angles, and makes it very logical. You know, it gives you that I'm following a process. That's all I need to do is I need to follow the process. And, you know, this is for people who, for whatever reason in their lives, missed out on developing that skill. And to some extent, we've all got bits of this missing. You know, we've all missed out on some bits and pieces along the way. You know, this whole scenario that I talked about with Chloe, so the outcome to that, when I had the meeting and I was hearing all the reasons, and, you know, I just think it's so unfair. My response, and afterwards I was like, what just happened? So I got the spiel, and my response was, okay. And that was it. And she was like, what? I just think it's really unfair. And I went, okay, thank you for telling me that. And my heart was going, and there was a bit of me going like, and you're going to do what? And I was like, nothing. I'm just going to say, okay. And it was really tough because all of that, like, make peace in this uncomfortable situation, smooth it over, make everyone feel all right again, was like really bubbling up. But I didn't, I sat in it. And it was, thanks. It was intense. But yeah, it's the same sort of thing of, well, what do I need to say? I have to stick to the no. And you can be uncomfortable with my no. That's okay. Like, thank you for sharing that you're uncomfortable. Okay. Still a no, though.
So how would you use it if you were trying to make a decision? And I'll give you the example of the decision. This is the one I mentioned earlier about staying up in Leeds or going to that.
Oh, nice one. Yes, yes, yes.
Which side would you?
You're going to be on the left. Yes. All right. So you're going to get a penny.
Oh, on the left.
Yeah, for every yes that you give me. Are you able to go to Southampton?
See, my brain immediately went, yes, I can go and visit.
All right. Are you able to permanently go to Southampton? That's a no. She's not getting any money. What's your objective for going to Southampton?
Well, it's been near my family.
Okay. Is being nearer your family more important than being away from them in Leeds?
Yes. That's how you clarify the objective there. That's
Yeah.
it. It's interesting to hear you rephrase the things.
Yeah.
Piece
it, yeah. Will helping your family make you feel more competent and self-respecting? Are you required by law or moral code to go to Southampton?
No.
Okay. Are you responsible for making this decision, doing what needs to be done when you get there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't sound too
No,
enthusiastic.
it didn't. Is what you want appropriate for the context of moving there? And is it, are they asking you to go just out of interest?
No.
They're not, okay.
I've been like this since I came back from Ascension in 2010.
Okay, that's quite a long time.
Mum passed away last year.
Yeah.
And my dad getting older.
Yeah, so it feels a bit more intense. So is it right for anyone to ask you to go? Okay. And just to double check that one from a different way, so still on the relationship one, is it appropriate for your relationships to go?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. But put it in savings.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Different things. Is this important to a longer term goal?
Yes.
Okay. Are you gonna get as much as you will give from going back.
Yes.
Do you know what you want, and do you have all the facts to support you in being able to make a decision?
Yes.
Mm.
I want both. Yeah, I'd say that's a no.
That's a no, okay. Is it a good time for you to ask this of yourself?
Yes.
Okay. How much money have you got?
70 cents.
70 cents. So, because we did this for asking, didn't we? So you should confidently go and resist not. How does that sit with you? Could you do it confidently?
No. I've done it. I've lived up in, well, the last time I lived in Southampton was when I was 18 and I'm 64 next year. So I've lived a long time away from there, mainly because I was working elsewhere.
Yeah.
But it's like family, friends, and my life.
Yes.
So everything.
Yeah.
You know, everything is up in Leeds.
Yeah.
Who in your family?
All of them.
Who needs the help?
None of them.
Hmm.
Well, everybody needs. She's got 2 young children at the minute, but yeah, none of them need my help.
Do they want your help?
Does.
Do they even want you to go back?
They always on at me.
Yeah.
I went and did a drive-by of 3 houses yesterday. But each and I go on Rightmove every day. You might get emotional now. I'll go on Rightmove every day to look at properties. I won't get the same kind of level of properties I've got in Leeds because I've got a very nice house. But house prices are so different. But my sister made me drive with her around to 3 different places yesterday. I was like, getting in the road. Nope.
Yeah.
It's a real parts thing.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I've done it on myself, and even then, I'm kind of heart and head. What will I miss from up there? What will I gain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you didn't have to make this decision, would you create this decision for yourself? Like, would you go looking for trouble if the trouble wasn't already there?
No, I wouldn't move away from my house. But
So why
I love my house.
Yeah.
I love where I live because all my family are in Southampton, and my mum passed away last year, and I missed a lot of time with her. And my dad's ill now, and I'm missing the children. I'm missing my nephews and nieces growing up, and now I'm missing my great nieces growing up, and it's just a real heart and head thing.
Do you think somehow manage to find a way to do both? So you stay where you are, but you spend more time visiting.
I did that last year when Mum was ill. It's because I'm so involved with brownies and guides, so which I don't have to do anywhere. But so I was doing Sunday morning brownies, travelling down to Southampton on Sunday night, travelling back on Wednesday morning. And that was basically the last year. So yeah, that was really useful though.
Good, glad to hear it. All right, so I'm going to do a little whistle stop one. So I'm going to give you this worksheet to take with you. It's not really so much of a client practitioner one for today, because you need to have had a little bit of it's more like catching up on homework. It's one of those sorts of ones, so you'd need to have done other stuff and then come back to it, but it ties in with the module around wise mind. So wise mind is the backbone of DBT. It's about being in that place where you are mindful of your emotional state and what that's communicating to you, and having logic at the same time. So rather being in that black or white, I'm one or the other, I'm either being fully logical and switching all my emotions off, or I'm having an emotional meltdown and have no consideration for logic, is bringing those two worlds together. So I've drawn it up here like a Venn diagram. So you've got your emotion mind and you've got your rational mind. And wise mind is the place where those two cross over. It's the cross section between the two of them. And this is something that we're really keen on encouraging our clients to start to tap into. So a really quick exercise I can share with you around this one is, I'll just let you finish your writing. When you finish your writing, I would like you to close your eyes. Right. I thought he was going to say I can write with my eyes shut. That'd be a real skill. All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to imagine a circle in your mind there. And this first circle you're going to imagine is going to represent your emotion mind. And because we're NLPers, I'm also going to ask you to notice what color is your circle that represents your emotion mind. Just notice what color that emotion mind is for you right now. And then just beside it, I want you to imagine a second circle. And this second circle is going to represent your rational mind. And I'd like you to notice what color is inside of that rational mind. What color is your rational mind circle? So you've got your emotion mind circle there. You've got your rational mind circle there. And now I want you to see a place where these two circles start to come together and overlap in the middle. All right, not fully overlap, but just creating a space in the middle there where the two of them are connected. You'll see those two colors blending in with each other. And that's the area that represents your wise mind, where your emotional mind and your rational mind are both working as one. And as you notice the color of that wise mind there, that mixture of the two colors coming together, I want you to ask yourself, what does my wise mind know about me right now? And you're going to take a moment to just sit with that question. What does my wise mind know about me right now? All right, and then you can take a nice deep breath and open your eyes. Okay, so this is what we are talking about when we're talking about wise mind. It's about getting into a state of balanced mindfulness where we are at one with how we're feeling, while simultaneously taking into consideration our rational, our logic, our cognitive processing, and having the two actually functioning and working together. So wise mind is balanced, grounded, intuitive. It's about being fully aware, not just one side of the coin or the other. So we've got lots of different wise mind practices, strategies, techniques, and worksheets that go with them. And lots of these relate to what you're doing in your physical existence at that moment in time. How are you breathing? How are you using your body? What's your voice sounding like? Can you bring yourself back to that centered, grounded place by changing how you're operating your physiology? So wise mind is useful for bringing thoughts with emotionally intelligent decision making and choices. So you have got your wise mind practice sheet here. So we're not going to do an exercise around this one, but you're going to be able to work on this later. So it's got a series of different wise mind related practices. And you'll see at the top on the right hand side there, it says week starting. So very often we're using these practices on a week by week basis. And one of the additional tools that you can get in DBT is a bit like a diary, where it will ask you, did you do any of these activities today? So the reason why it says week starting up there is because we're actually saying, based on the last week since I saw you, have you done any of the following wise mind practices? Have you attended to your breathing? Like, have you actually made a conscious effort to notice how you're breathing? Have you imagined being a snowflake on a stone on the lake? Right, so we've just got these different metaphorical stories that we might use. Have you imagined walking down an inner spiral staircase, just walking down and down, relaxing yourself deeper and deeper? We all know where.
So they will be given certain things to do.
Exactly, yes, yes. So they're going to be ticking off which ones of these have they actually done. And then it asks them to describe a situation where they practice wise mind. We're going to evaluate how effective that practice was. Did it do the trick? Was there another one that they practiced? Did that one do the trick for them? So we're just getting them to notice, oh, if I do this, this works. This does something for me. Now, in the context of what we do already as NLP practitioners, you know, we're frequently saying, they don't do the homework. The book comes back and it's still empty.
But they do,
right?
sometimes they do it, because there's
Yeah.
clearly a change between certain.
Yes, they're doing
and it's
something.
The things
Yes.
that are going to keep going.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
yeah.
But yeah.
Yes, yeah. Whereas this is formula. You know, this is, you have to follow the steps.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be sitting down and looking at this sheet together when I see you next week. This is prescriptive.
Yeah.
And that's part of why this works really well for them. All right, good stuff. So any questions on that before I move on?
No.
Nope. Okay, so let's talk about changing unwanted emotions. The reason why we do this one is to identify whether the emotion we're currently in is a good match for the situation. Or have we picked the wrong one? Have we got in the wrong emotional state? One of the things you'll hear quite a lot in DBT is around checking the facts. So what we're saying there is, does what you believe about the situation actually match up with the situation? Does what you're feeling in the situation actually match up with the situation? This is what we mean when we say checking the facts. Sometimes we might look at taking an opposite action, which is when you do the opposite to what you think your emotions are telling you to do. When you have an opposite, perhaps verbal reaction to what your feelings are saying. Like I explained again, going back to that scenario that I was in, my heart was going really fast. My emotions were bubbling up saying, do something to make the person feel better. Make this peaceful again. This is uncomfortable. But I did the opposite action. I said, okay, and then just sat in silence and didn't try to fix the problem, which would have been my go-to response usually. So we're going to behave opposite to the urge of an emotion in a situation, once we've checked the facts, obviously. So this helps to build positive experiences. I now have a reference point when I'm in an uncomfortable situation in the future. I don't have to default to making it feel okay. I know that I can sit through pain and discomfort and that I can hold a silence and I can get an outcome that is better suited to me as a result of doing that. I know that now because I've done it before.
So, sorry,
Yeah,
so
go
if you do an opposite action.
Yes.
And it doesn't come up as the correct one.
Yes.
Then you don't build the positive experience.
That would also be true. Yes. Yeah.
So it doesn't have to result in what you actually want.
No, not necessarily. And I guess that maybe takes us to a place of what we would call reframing, where you can then look at that afterwards and say, oh, but actually, like, even though you didn't get the result that you wanted, you still held yourself in the uncomfortable space. That's really good distress tolerance. Like, you've worked a muscle there. That's still really good. So there's no guarantee that you're going to get what you want from this. But if you can walk away and say, well, I'm still really proud of myself, then that's the win. That's what we're still going to look out for. Yeah.
And there probably will be some positive experience.
Yes.
The
not necessarily what you want. Yeah.
The first place.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Another big thing in DBT, so you'll notice here it says about vulnerabilities. So we're really big on looking at the whole picture of the person. Are you hungry? Do you need a snack right now? Did you get enough sleep last night? No, same. You know, did you take your medication on time today? These are all the things that might, for people who are more emotionally vulnerable, they're not going to be able to tolerate those extra stresses necessarily. You know, I can say I didn't get enough sleep last night, but I'm not going to like have a meltdown about it today. But someone who has borderline personality disorder or someone who is more emotionally vulnerable might, and then confuse everybody about, oh my God, why are they being so emotional? Why are they having this big meltdown? Actually, they're just tired. So we want to check in with our clients around these things because we know that they've got these vulnerabilities, and so they need to be more on top of their, like, a different type of personal hygiene, where it's more about, are they actually looking after themselves properly? Are they, you know, fulfilling their nutritional needs, and if they had enough water today, and all of those sorts of things are going to form part of helping us help them to have better understanding and management over their emotional states. So with that being said, you're going to have a look at figuring out how to change unwanted emotions. This process, it's only actually as a result of looking at this with you guys today that I've realized I've done this a lot. This one I've done a lot this year already. With clients, yeah. So I know I've got one. I'll see if I can find it on her notes and I'll show it to you. And I've set it up in a slightly different way, but and it's a bit more detailed. But basically, here's how this one works. So once you have checked the facts, you're going to use this worksheet to figure out what you need to do next. Before you can figure out what to change, so it's about changing unwanted emotions, you have to decide whether you are acting on, whether acting on the emotion is effective in the situation you're in, and whether the emotion is one you actually want to change. If you are not sure whether you want to change it or not, you're going to go back to your emotion regulation worksheet first, and you look at something else called pros and cons that we also do. So in this flow chart below, you're going to circle yes or no at each level, and then select the skill that best fits your situation. So what we're saying here is, first of all, we're going to do an exercise where we're checking the facts of the situation. I'll pull that up in just a second. Once we've done that, we're going to use the flow chart to help us figure out how we should change emotion, if we should change emotion, and maybe even like what emotion might we want to start leading our way towards. All right, so we're going to use the flow chart to be able to do that. So you're going to work in a client practitioner scenario once again. And let me just pull up in the training manual stuff around checking the facts, and I will tell you exactly what it says in here about that. Check the facts. So let's go with emotion regulation skills 359. Nine. Right, checking the facts has already been covered, which it has not yet. Bear with me, let me find it. Let's see. By the way, had any of you heard of DBT before today?
Yes.
You
offered it to us.
previously. Fine.
I said that.
Yes, it is a bit like CBT. Well, it's foundations are from CBT as well. That's opposite.
It's also quite commonly recommended for new undergraduate people.
Yeah, I would imagine for ASD in particular, because of the limited scale of emotions they might have access to, and picking the wrong ones in certain situations as well. Oh, here we go, literally on the page before. Okay, so here's what it says. So this is what we say as practitioners. So it can be a helpful way to review prompting events for various emotions. It's also good for clarifying what emotion fits what facts. Review 1 or 2 items on the handout and suggest that participants review the rest of the handout in between sessions. So in general, the situations listed fit the emotions they are linked to. They're not only valid for prompting events, most important in deciding whether or not to try to change an emotion is to ask wise mind whether specific emotional responses are effective in the specific situation for advancing important personal goals. Explain to participants that emotions function to solve problems of common situations we encounter. For example, fear. Fear functions to keep us safe by urging us to escape danger through avoiding, running away, or hiding from anything that threatens us. So if the emotion you want to change is fear, because it doesn't feel very nice to be in fear at the best of times, then to check the facts we need to say, are you in a situation where you are in danger, where you need to run away, or you need to hide from something that threatens you? If the answer is yes, we shouldn't change that emotion because the emotion fits the facts of the situation. Does that make sense? If the answer is no, I'm not in a situation like that at all, then we need to change the emotion because the emotion doesn't fit the facts of the situation. Anger. Anger functions to protect us from assault or loss of important people, things, or goals by urging us to threaten or attack those who might hurt us. So if we have someone who is angry, then we need to check the facts by saying, right now, are you needing to protect yourself from assault? Is there the chance that you're going to lose something important or an important person? And do you need to threaten or attack someone that might hurt you? If the answer is yes, that is exactly the scenario I'm in right now. And actually, we don't want to change that emotion because that anger is going to serve to protect you or motivate you to get away or to protect someone else potentially. We don't want to change that anger. We need it. But if that situation doesn't fit the facts, then we need to change the emotion. Make sense? And then it goes on. So we've got 9 different emotions. So your 9 core emotions in here include disgust, envy, jealousy, love, sadness, shame, and guilt. All right, so those are like the 9 core ones that we're typically going to, NLP language, chunk up to when assessing what the emotion is. Does it fit the facts? If no, then we're going to change the emotional state using the sheet below. Yeah, so I want you to have a play with figuring out how to change emotional states using the flow diagram that you've got there. So you're going to need to come up with a scenario. Could be a current one, could be one from the past perhaps, where you've been in a bit of an emotional pickle. But before you dive in and start doing the flow chart, check the facts. So what was the situation? What were you feeling? Were those feelings right for that situation? If no, I was definitely overreacting, or no, that was definitely not the right emotional reaction, then you can move on to figuring out how to change it using your flow chart. Okay. Off you go.
Making me realise that life was pretty good right now.
Well, that's good news, isn't it? Oh gosh, what was her name? Her name is MB.
Emotions, right?
Damn it.
But you're already chapped up to them because you know what they are. They're
Yeah,
supposed to, the client, that's what we they like come with an example and it's trying up to like, is that right?
Yeah,
That's either good.
yeah, okay. So it might not be.
It's so thoughtful. I've got, I know, yeah, but with an example, but they might not come with like, yes, we might have to get them up to work out what their state was. The chunking.
Got it.
Is that right?
Yes, so let me show you. I wonder if I can get this on screen. How do I do this? I need to maybe calm out of that screen share. iPad via AirPlay.
I've got to go across.
Oh, that's annoying. I can see it on my computer screen, but I can't see it on the screen up there. Hang on, what does that do? That one?
Yes.
Yay! All right, so this is a flowchart that I made for a client of mine who has anxieties about just kind of being away from home. Like, it's not even really travel because it depends on who she's with. And in particular, if she's with her friends rather than her family, she would be more inclined to be very anxious and panicky about it. She's 18? Yeah, 18 years old. So she's in a friendship group where there's a lot of drinking and partying and all of that kind of stuff, which actually she's just not that kind of character, and is a bit of a homebod and doesn't want to get wasted all the time. So going out with her friends and going into London for nights out is super stressful. She gets very anxious about it in advance. So this was our flowchart. Should I panic about the trip? Yes. Or like, if it's a yes, it's like, well, panic then. You should panic. It's the right emotion. You should be panicking. Or no, then we go to imagine enjoying the thing and then go and enjoy it. And then what else have we got? So is this panic a fake emergency? Yes, imagine doing the thing, go enjoy it. No, then have you checked twice already? So I gave her a rule for it's a journey checking thing. She needs to check on Google Maps to see if there's going to be any traffic issues, that kind of thing. So she gets 2 checks. If she's checked twice already, then has she been alerted to any change in circumstances? And we got yes, no. You can see how it works, right? Is she the one doing the driving? That gives her a better sense of control. If yes, then has she already checked? We can go around in a circle. If it's a no, does she have a backup plan? If she has a backup plan, there's a little bit cut off down the bottom there, but yeah, you see how it works, right?
Yeah.
So that's a sort of customized one that I made for one of my clients this year.
So does she use it before every trip?
Not every trip, only the ones where she's getting in a panic beforehand. Yeah.
So if she feels that the panic is coming,
yes, she will go through this. Yeah. And then it's that sort of permission setting of, well, I'm either allowed to panic or I'm not allowed to panic because I've already checked off all the things that are my criteria for should I be worried, and they've all said no. So I don't need to do anything, like there's no further action required. And it's also a really good distraction. She's not on Google Maps anymore. Yeah. All right.
She's also panicking because of the traffic. About everything about the trip.
Yes. Yes.
Did she panic if there's a crash in Scotland and she's trying to get to Southampton?
No, because she wouldn't see that one.
Having the driver and get the traffic report, it's like, I don't need to know what's going on.
PowerPoint, there we go. Share.
Good. Good. But then you can go down this.
Just to add, because I'm conscious we're a bit short on time, I have given you the checking the facts one there as well. So if you need it or want to do it before you do the unwanted emotions one, you can do that one as well.
Oh, so it's not that easy as I asked.
Yes, it could be another hour's session just on your checking the facts stuff.
Yeah, because we ended up, I asked, is there a reason to feel guilty? And she said, yes, so we finished.
Yes.
You don't think you go down this side then? No, but.
Well, if your emotion fits the context, then you don't need to change it. But were you being honest when you said that you should be feeling guilty? Well, there we go. There's another discovery.
It's completely all together.
Yeah.
So no, this should have probably be checked. But then on this one it says if it's yes. So on the first part though, the answer is yes, don't you just go down this side?
Yeah, you can do that. If it's causing you to act in an unhelpful or inappropriate way, then it still makes sense to change it.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, just try it. I'd be interested to see where it goes. So there's the biggest one, and then it was yes. No, it's not. It's all what is it? Yeah. Next week. So the longer part of it is checking.
Is the changing? Yeah. Oh, it is in the checking the facts. Not necessarily, because if somebody wants to change the emotion, you're going to have a bit more. If they want to, or they need to change the emotion, you're going to have more work to do. Yes. Yeah.
And that's it. I end up.
Yeah, it depends which way it takes you.
And if it's not, then it's actually.
Is this the event or situation threat to you? At least in terms of it's not necessary to.
Okay.
So it's another issue.
Nice.
Yeah.
But you can just, I mean,
It's a threat to you.
maybe the reason why this is harder for us to wrap our heads around is the fact that we don't have the personality.
No, that also that, yeah.
But I can see how this would be really useful for somebody that, I mean, people will
Yeah.
analyse.
People will be stuck.
Tiny, yeah.
Yeah.
Literally grounded by.
Yeah.
It's quite useful.
Do you want to there's just many other try to check the accuracy of your expectations if you can't check
This is what I do. Sometimes you just feel it, that's all. Just making their brain.
Yeah.
This leads to.
Yes.
This is probably not enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Those consultation questions do that, don't they?
Yeah. So I try to edit
Yeah.
it like fast.
No, I know. And it's the same thing every single time I'm on train. They're like, do I have to ask all of these questions? And I go, yeah. Should I? Yeah, I skip a few. Yeah. They're like, but can't I just get rid of some of them? No.
But now I say, if you want to set questions that
Yeah.
might feel like you might wonder what's getting.
Yeah.
And really, and I will sounds like I'm gonna say.
Yeah. 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 No, same ones. Yeah, that's another thing that blows people's minds.
Is it the same for adults?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not being respected.
What I
Yeah.
used to sometimes say is I feel strange to ask those things.
Yeah.
They, in a way, are repetitive.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
I say that.
Yeah. Because the number of times they give you a different answer when you ask the same question in a slightly different way.
So does it
Because you don't do the question one after the others. You
Is
ask
that another kind of-
Yes, and then it comes back in again and it's shaped slightly differently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they realized things.
Yeah.
Do you still use
Yeah. Not always. Yeah, I'll skip some.
But is it the full?
But I still use the same form. Yeah, exact same form. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'll show you. The one, oh, actually, I think my iPad's going to shut down.
And
Battery.
sometimes they
Okay.
they answer mindfulness before the officer.
Yeah, and being mindful.
Yeah.
Frustrated.
Yeah, they do.
Technical shit, they've got the chemistry you're saying, but I'm like, oh, what's the date, so you should be trying it.
Yeah,
It's just existing, mate.
yeah, yeah, all the same.
And then you sort of bite out sugars.
Yes.
They haven't seen.
Yes, yes.
Well,
Yeah, I'll think about it. I'm not sure if I should do that or if I should just put my prices up again for next year.
That's how I do it.
But yeah,
About 2 months.
so I've got a therapist friend who's in London. We had a meet up the other day,
So it's not that, not
and I'm charging the same as him, and he's in central London.
on this emotion.
And I'm a bit like,
It's acting on the frustration effective.
I don't know if I can.
Do not act. So you understand.
Maybe. Hmm?
If you're getting clients.
Yeah, I have enough. You know, I don't mind having fewer and having them paying me more. Like years ago, I would rather have had more clients because of the ego feeling like I needed more clients. Now I'm like, I would rather have more money and fewer clients. It's a much better idea. Yeah. How are you doing over there?
All right.
Yeah.
Just asking what's the opposite of frustration.
Oh, peace.
Yeah, I think you're right. But sometimes the opposite, a lot of the time the opposite is like just not reacting at all.
She's me.
Just take
Yeah.
a breath, don't say anything. Don't. No, but I always really agonise over what you want to say. Like, just
Pause is very,
Yeah.
very strong.
so
Because
if the
Because
emotion
nothing
fixed
seems-
facts, you know.
Yeah.
Some fixed facts.
Is acting on this
Is
emotion.
it suitable?
I don't know what.
But just something to go like, changing thoughts. Say.
So that's the check the facts of it you just done. No, it is effective.
I feel a lot of anxiety as well, it's like unlikely. This doesn't fit the facts. How can acting on the emotions still be effective? See what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess it could absolutely use as well. This the other piece, yeah.
We consider the opposite.
I can see how this is going to be really useful for one client in particular.
Uh-huh.
I know.
It's just like, you know, when you're trying to get them to do a different.
I guess it's
Yeah.
more
Yes.
thoughtful process.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think when you customise it like you did
Mm.
for a particular situation.
Yeah.
Facts, it's easier possibly to follow than
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
Or if we had like a real proper problem to work through.
Yeah. Yeah, then you can customize it yourselves, wouldn't you? Yeah.
So you when you do this training, so you
Yeah.
say you haven't done the clinical side of it, so
No.
what does that mean? You can't be in.
It means I can't train you to the level that I'm at. I can only train you to the level below that.
But you can practice
I can practice, yes.
without
Yes.
doing the clinical hours.
Correct, yes.
So you can advertise yourself as a DBT.
Something, yeah, yeah,
Practitioner.
yeah. I
Can you
I
just ask
can-
practitioners?
I can run a DBT informed training and a DBT informed practice. And I can train you to be DBT informed practitioners.
No practitioners as such.
But then if somebody was prescribed,
Yeah.
'cause I think for me, the thing about
Yeah.
the struggle with NLP is always this whole science.
Yeah,
Why doesn't it have the scientific? Why have there been no studies on it? This is what I don't
yeah, I suppose you'd have to then, no, but
Well,
I mean, you'd have to go through your whole.
there's been not enough studies, and the studies that have been done have proved that it doesn't work. Yeah.
But I think the thing about this is that it is in the medical system. And it is
Yes.
something that is
Yes.
prescribed, and it's something that's
Yeah.
slightly more prescriptive.
Yeah.
Which
That's
I think
what makes it replicable.
which is good. So, but so if it's something that's prescribed, so somebody, so say for example, I went to the GP and they diagnosed me with either borderline personality disorder or if I had suicidal ideation or self-harm or these patterns but not quite there, then you get prescribed DBT.
Yes.
Then would somebody seek private DBT and then they look for you?
Yes, so at that stage they could do the usual, wait it out on the NHS, or they can say, no, I'm going to look up a private service, and then they can come to you as a DBT informed practitioner.
But I would then just do DBT on them, because what's interesting is how it links with NLP.
Yes.
Kind of...
Yeah. So what I do when I do my consultations is I say, this is all of the stuff that I can do, and I'm going to pick and choose from what you need and what I've got, and marry those two things up. And your sessions will be designed around that. So unless you tell me, oh no, I only want you to do this, like that's the only modality I want you to use with me, then I can stick with it. But probably what's going to work better is if I look at your challenges.
If somebody was coming to you specifically for DBT, because they're GP or whatever, like that.
Yes.
Then
you can
say you're going to be doing it, but using other things.
Yeah. And there is also merit to it's maybe going to depend a little bit on their circumstances. If they were, let's say they were self-harming, we know that there's lots of things that we do in NLP that would be valuable for that. So it makes sense. Whereas if it was, for me, if it was something like borderline personality disorder, where I know that they need a host of skills to be able to cope with life, I'm going through this workbook with them, because this has got everything they need.
About 16, so you're saying about headline, but they would only, so what, there's lots of kids that could
have the traits,
not
so then you
benefit from this stuff.
That's what I mean. And then pull out the bits and pieces that you need.
Is this covered by the
insurance? Good question. Probably. It's probably a Gemma needs to phone up the insurance company and flutter her eyelashes a little bit.
Are you in the insurance? Are you in health insurance?
Yes. So with that, you need is it HCPC? Is it HCPC, something like that, isn't it? So with DBT, there isn't an association like you've got the General Hypnotherapy Register, the Association of NLP. There isn't a sort of one whole body for DBT, as far as I know, that the private health insurance companies have latched on to. And people that are trained in DBT frequently are not just DBT therapists, they're also something else. So your private insurance people are more likely to come to you maybe for DBT, but through the gateway of the other thing, through the something else.
You don't need CBT, for example?
No, you don't. No. So I'm at the level that I am because of my psychology with the British Psychological Society. So my DBT training is approved by the British Psychological Society. All right, so let me cover these final bits and pieces here, and then I will give you, don't take it badly that I'm leaving you with this one and not doing it with you. Finding and getting people to like you. I mean nothing by that. Everybody likes you already. All right, so I'll just do a bit on checking the facts. So emotions are often valid, but not always accurate. So we need to identify the emotion, describe the prompting event, check your assumptions and interpretations, adjust the facts, adjust if the facts don't support your emotional response. And this helps us reduce overreaction and emotional spirals. And then for finding and getting people to like you, we have an acronym with this one, which is GIVE, which stands for gentle, interested, validate, and use an easy manner. Again, we deep dive into all of these on the training. Be kind, but keep your boundaries. Focus on empathy and shared understanding, and this helps to build trust, connection, and influence. Okay, so just to recap then, your 4 DBT modules are made up of mindfulness, which is about having grounded awareness and presence in the moment. Emotion regulation, so understanding and managing emotions. We have a module on distress tolerance, which is surviving crisis without making things worse. And interpersonal effectiveness, which is all about building healthy relationships and assertive communication. So there is a program. Listen, you can talk to me more about this. You can do this, not do this. You know, I was going to do the year-long program earlier this year. I think we were going to start it, but then no, it must have been last year, wasn't it? It was last year I was going to do it. But then we didn't have this event, so I didn't get to introduce it, etc., etc. Never happened. So this will be the same whether you train with me or train with anybody else. Typical for DBT, the model is that you can purchase one module at a time, so one of the 4 modules. And the 4 modules are taught in sequence across the year. There's just a couple of weeks gap between each of them. So it is live training. We would do it online. You get both of the workbooks in a digital format, which is actually way easier when you come to work with your clients, because then you've got them as worksheets on your digital devices. We go through the materials. So for all of those, 3 or 4 bits that I've shared with you today, you would actually be deep diving into one of those at a time for an hour session each week. And that involves doing the practice behind it as well. It's suitable for both professionals and individuals who want to master DBT skills. Now, when you come to work with clients around this, if you're actually teaching them the sort of more formal structured DBT, and delivering it in your own group sessions, which you could do, then in order for them to master it, they should also attend all 40 sessions with you, which means you're working with them for a year. And if they have borderline personality disorder in particular, it's recommended they do it again a second year, because the first year you're just sort of finding your way through. And first year you're finding your way through, second year you're actually a bit more immersed in it, which means that the recovery period for someone with borderline personality disorder, you know, I said earlier, it's the one that you can actually, you can recover from all of those criteria. So typically recovery time is about 2 years. I forgot.
Because they need to do 40 weeks twice.
So they need to do the 40 weeks twice, ideally. I mean, some people might get it after the first year. They might recover within 12 months, but typically it's going to be like a 2-year recovery period. So if you want to do it with me, then here's the jig. You can do just the one of 4 modules for £180. So that's 10 weeks of training. And then bolt on the extras at a later stage if you wanted to. The sessions are going to be recorded. You will get a certificate of attendance and all of your worksheets provided. So you won't get the full books, you'll just get the bits for what you've actually attended. For the full program, it's discounted. So it's 594 including VAT. Same structure of the sessions, except you're doing all 40 weeks of training. And you will get an informed practitioner certification. So DBT informed practitioner, and your workbooks, the 4 workbooks. Okay, makes sense? Any questions?
One time, that's fine, isn't it? I mean, I don't know what it is, but only get
I know. I know.
And how much time for
For the DBT sessions, well, mostly they're coming to group sessions, which means you're selling them that. Like I've just said there, you're going to be selling them a package that looks more like that. If they're coming to individual sessions and you're going to still work with them for the 40 weeks, I would suggest charging them similar or more for one-to-ones. And maybe that's your usual session rate, like your usual weekly session rate, because typically people are paying you for your time, not just your expertise. I would say it's more unusual for someone to do a full 40 weeks on a one-on-one. If they're going to do the full 40 weeks, then it's more likely that they're doing it through a group format, which I appreciate is, you know, different to the kind of stuff that you've been doing. Yeah.
you done?
No, I have not.
It's be interesting.
Yeah.
It's like, what if someone can't make it?
Yes.
They miss the session.
Yeah. Well, record them. Yeah, record the sessions and expect them to do the work and catch up. Yeah.
So they could be done online as well.
Yeah, most DBT is done online now. Yeah, yeah, it's only really in like clinical settings where they're still doing face-to-face delivery, but the vast majority of the time it's online. Yeah.
And how many in a group?
Good question. I think the maximum I've read about is 10 to 15 in a group. But I can't speak for, like, even this morning I was doing a little bit of research on what are people charging these days, because I haven't looked at it for a couple of years. And I think some of these more some of these companies where they see it as a good money-making opportunity are probably having much larger group sizes. So for me, there's a sort of ethical piece to it as well, that, you know, these are quite vulnerable people, and also they're very emotionally charged people. So I would not encourage anyone to start running big groups, because you get all sorts of messiness happening between them otherwise. Like if you go to live real life DBT groups, one of the things that we would do is set out kind of rules for the room, and one of the rules is you guys aren't allowed to interact with each other outside of these sessions, because with borderline personality, for example, they can be highly sexualized people. And then you end up in a situation where you've got a room full of people that are very highly sexually charged in therapy and all getting into messy relationships with each other. So there's a lot of benefits to the online in this particular instance.
Does the group have to have similar problems?
No, they don't have to have similar problems.
So
They
you
would
can have alcoholic, druggy, and
Self-harness.
yes, all kind of mingling together. Yes, yeah. In a clinical setting, it's going to be more common that they've got the same issues, that they're all coming together for the same reason. But for general population opportunities, no, they're going to be there for all sorts of different reasons. Yeah, so Stuart that I mentioned earlier, you know, his sort of main reason for going to these sessions was around the lack of validation from being adopted. You know, and sort of the disconnection that he knows his birth parents now, he's met them both, but obviously it's a weird scenario. And so, yeah, he was amongst people that had personality disorders and self-harming. It wasn't a room full of people that had been adopted.
when does the module full program start?
I'm going to start this probably January or February. So I don't think there's any point in doing it now. I think we need a nice clear stretch of time ahead of us
And then
to
you
get
go
our teeth into it. Was that sorry?
Then you do it every
Maybe. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm obviously I've trained in it. I'm delivering it to some extent, you know, in bits and pieces with my clients. And I had the intention of really getting my teeth into it a couple of years back, but then we did this event again and we had different speakers, and so I just didn't get a chance to showcase it for you guys yet. So you know, if you want to do it, great. If you don't want to do it, I'm doing it already anyway. So you know, I'm happy to just sort of keep using it in private practice otherwise.
Yeah. Let's just say this brings us to 40 weeks, it's always going to be 5 days, don't you? 4 days of
Yeah,
training, but you do an hour.
it would be an hour a week.
Do you have an idea of when you want to do it?
Look,
Because I'm still a GM.
as in actual days of the week, or
Funny, you earn.
yeah.
I know it's just an hour.
Yeah.
But you know, if that hour is because many times my reason why I'm not on your mastermind.
Yes, you're working.
They are at
Yeah.
1 o'clock.
Yes, yeah.
So
Yeah, no, absolutely no idea. And again, if it's something that you genuinely, you know, want to consider, then
I'm very, very much considering.
okay, well then you tell me what works, because you know I can put a poll out and see what works for people, and make sure it works for me as well, obviously. Yeah, so I'm fully flexible. Like I say, this is not locked in, it's not in the diary. This was a taster for you guys today. I think it's I like it because of that replicableness. So we know that it's got validation to it. And so you now have that because you are literally following what the book says. And that makes it very simple for you to deliver. And it also means that you've got some string to your bow where you can say, yeah, actually, there is data behind this. You know, this has been used to make significant changes.
So then when I get certified, I can use it like if I feel like this questionnaire or this thing helps my client, and I can use one of them.
Yeah,
Or I can make the program
exactly that.
40 months,
Yeah.
40
Weeks. Yeah.
Months.
40 years.
You can use it in a sense.
You can use it in isolation,
Yeah.
in one-off sessions,
Yeah.
which is how I've mainly used it. You know, it's just kind of like, oh, hang on a minute, I think I've got something about that in my book. So I've just used it kind of as and when for people. When I first trained in it, I was kind of looking for my clients to have more problems than they had, because I wanted to practice with it. So I was like, is that a bit like a distress tolerance issue? And they're like, no. And I'm like, are you sure? Because I think it might be. And I've got a worksheet for that.
Or like addictive behaviours and stuff.
Yeah. And PTSD, we've not talked a lot about, but that's another big area where this is used. Yeah. So yes, can I leave it with you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Cool, good stuff. Yeah, all right. Yeah, if you're serious about it, you want to do it, then we'll just kind of work with days and times and stuff, and see what we can do. Sweet. Right, I'm going to stop my screen share. And I'm going to stop recording. Bye.